Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be painting a little fairy house with mushrooms and flowers growing around it, and I'm going to be sharing my one and only winter camping experience in Canada. Now, just a little backstory. I had a class this year which was like a outdoor leadership kind of class, and it was there was 3 mandatory trips that we had to take throughout the year, one in the fall, one in the winter, and one in the spring, but we never went on the spring one because of schools being shut down and everything like that. So before going on this trip, we had to practice setting up fires, setting up tents, how to cook on a fire stove, and pulling sleds and everything. And I had to also buy all this winter gear so that we wouldn't freeze to death in sub-zero temperatures outside. And so I'm just going to be talking about my personal experience with this trip. When we first went to the drop-off area, we actually had it pretty easy because all of our stuff was being pulled by a snowmobile to the first camp destination, and all we had to do was walk there. I think the entire trip in total was about 28 kilometers, which doesn't sound that bad, but when you're pulling sleds of up to about 50 pounds in snow on snowshoes, it can feel like more than it actually is. So the first day was actually the best day, in my opinion, because we got to know our guides for our trip, and we just got to know each other and just learn about the basics like cutting wood and setting up the boughs inside our tents, which means we had to take these cedar or pine branches and lay them on the ground for insulation, and so that we don't melt through the ice because we were sleeping on a lake. And the first day was the most fun and memorable because I slept the warmest that day, I have to say, and because there was only 2 tents set up, a few of the boys had to sleep in the girls' tent, which was a little bit awkward, but it was fun, you know. We were all there for the journey. And the first day when we set off to our second campsite, I was a little bit out of shape and I couldn't catch up with the rest of the group for the first about 20 minutes or so, but then after that I started getting into the groove, and we got to our second camp, and we got there. It was a beaver swamp, so it smelled like rotten eggs, but we still were really happy to set up camp and just settle down. And then for that night, we got to actually set up the tents because the first night they set up the tents for us, and I slept really well that second night too. And for the third day, we had to climb this. For the third day, we didn't have to pull any sleds or anything because we had to climb this mountain, or maybe like a hill. It wasn't that tall, but because we had to do it in the middle of the winter with snowshoes on, it felt like a longer and higher climb than maybe it actually was. I don't know how to explain it. We got to eat at the top of this mountain with a beautiful, gorgeous view, and we got to have warm soup and Nutella and peanut butter sandwiches. And usually we're not allowed to have peanut butter or Nutella at school, but for this trip, we were allowed to eat whatever we wanted. And and then we went back to camp, and for the third day, we also actually stayed in that camp, but we had to move. We had to move back to the drop-off area where we started our journey on the fourth day, obviously. And Oh, I forgot to mention, the third night was the night where I got sick. I got really, really sick. And that was also when, so this was in February, early February, I would say, this trip. And it was when people were aware of the virus that was going around, but people weren't too cautious, so I just had to cough into my sleeve and everything. But that third night was, I regretfully had to say, my worst night because I was so cold and I was bunched up in my sleeping bag, and my legs cramped up so I couldn't move at all, and I was sick, and it just wasn't a fun night that night. And I was really happy to get back to the drop-off area, but I really enjoyed the trip. I was really tired by the end of it, but my legs felt like they were stronger, but they were also numb at the same time. And to get to the drop-off area, we had to form like a human chain with these sleds, where we had to hold onto this rope from the group in front of us, and we had to get up this hill, and that was like the final hurdle of this trip. But overall, I would say I had lots of fun. But if you'd ask me if I would do this again, I'd say no, because I'm more of a home type person. I'm not really an outdoorsy person, but it certainly gave me a lot of experience, a lot of character building, and a lot of bonding with my classmates in that class. And I just like to say that it was really fun, but I wouldn't do it again. So that is about it for this video. Hope you have a great day, and stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!